Hello and welcome everybody, I'm OneProperBarbarian and I'm very excited for this video because this one is a special one. Sadly, this isn't Crusader Kings III, but it's also not Crusader Kings II. This is just Crusader Kings. Yeah, that's right, this game was released in 2004. It is the original. This is where it all was kickstarted. The franchise that I so very much love. And this was a wildly different game from what we of course are used to now in Crusader Kings II and what we are hoping for in CK3. But I always like the idea of looking back because especially in the early 2000s, as a consumer it always seemed to me as though the early 2000s were a phase where developers just wildly threw things against the wall and hoped that something would stick. And that is very interesting to see because most of the time these days we have very established, and for good or for worse, you know, very established kind of development cycles of how a game should look, what kind of mechanics make it into the game, etc, etc. Whereas back in the day, things were a bit different. You just did something that worked in the moment, you tried some stuff out, you know, there were so many novel mechanic games that never made it out of the early 2000s, you know, all of those mechanics just died with them because of course they may have not been perfect. Now in Crusader Kings, of course, we had the very first touch, as far as I'm concerned, in strategy games, in grand strategy games, to simulate characters, to simulate dynastic relationships instead of this entity, the state, the nation, whatever you want to call it. I mean, even in other Paradox games of the time, of course, you know, you only had the nation state, so to speak. You had Hearts of Iron 2, Doomsday, you had Victoria Revolutions, you had Europa Universalis 2, etc, etc, but all of those were not characters, all of those were nation-based. And Crusader Kings in that sense was very interesting, and it is very good for us today, of course, that the mechanic of having dynastic gameplay kind of play a role still in even 2020, so that survived the early 2000s, but not in the form that it was in Crusader Kings. And I thought it could be interesting to take a journey today, to take a look at Crusader Kings Deus Vult. Deus Vult was the expansion released in 2007, that is now just available as a package essentially on Steam. It is the Crusader Kings Complete Edition, and the game was radically different from what we now know in CK2. What CK2 was in 2012, quite frankly, it was even then, it was way, way different, and what we will hopefully be getting in CK3. So, let's just take a look at that. Theoretically, there was multiplayer. I never played it, I'll be honest with you. To be honest, I also want to add something. I never played that many hours in Crusader Kings, you know, the first game. Mostly because I played more, you know, Ricky, Victoria Revolutions, I played more Hearts of Iron 2, Doomsday, that sort of stuff. Crusader Kings, I'll be honest with you, I think I didn't get it. I think it was too difficult for me to get into back in the day. I'll admit it, listen, I was a kid, what do you want from me, you know? I can't read all that text, you got a problem with that? Essentially the way it works is you have three starting scenarios. You have Hastings, which is post-Hastings, so on the throne of England is already William the Conqueror. Then you have the Third Crusade, 1187, that allows you to play with a mega Jerusalem, and just FYI, all you can see here are essentially the crown lands of the King of Jerusalem. Actually, it might include, I don't think it does, but it might include the direct vassals as well. I think it's just the domain of the King of Jerusalem. We can check on that in a second here. And then you have the 100 Years' War, which of course allows you to play Punished France and Mega England. Now all of those things, I think it does show you the direct vassals. You know what, let's just take a look at that in a second. And let's jump into England. Let's say we will play William the Conqueror. As you can see here, we can select the counts right here. We can select the duchies. The Duchy of Bavaria, of course, exists in all its beauty. These first rings, I mean, you can see the proximity between this game and Crusader Kings 2 can really be felt. I feel like this looks more like the original character frames than anything that we have today in Crusader Kings 2. They really overhauled these frames, and of course the portraits are wildly different. You can see everybody here is looking from the side. It was an interesting thing to do. I really like the aesthetics, although I personally like CK3's vastly more. I feel like the shields sort of look a bit more like Patrum Scooter Wooden Shield Alternative Edition. And then they do look like the Crusader Kings 2 vanilla shields. I honestly don't tell anyone, but I sort of kind of like these better over the vanilla shields in CK2. But the CK3 shields, or rather, well, the banners, honestly I like those more than those. But all that aside, let's just jump in here as the King of England. Let's make some things happen here, shall we? The options, if you were wondering, the options are essentially just the classic old Paradox game options. So that is the difficulty and the AI aggressiveness that essentially just says how often do you want to be attacked by the AI and how often should the AI attack one another. And then you have the game speed and autosave. Let's jump into it as the King of England. Now this game was developed sort of after Europa Universalis 2 came out, and Europa Universalis, as it was back then, and sort of still is today, not in a bad way, don't get me wrong here, but sort of, you know, as it was back then and today, was more a board game than anything. And that is something that we can also see here. Crusader Kings, in its original vision, was much more a board game. Piety and prestige were much more, and forgive me the word of the usage mana there, if you don't know this, I don't use the word mana, you know, entirely negatively. Mana is anything that is essentially a quantification of an abstract concept. So for example, piety. It is the quantification of how you're perceived, how the world sees you. Are you, you know, a dedicated religious person, or are you not a dedicated religious person? But the idea of piety, of course, is completely abstract and theoretical. It's not a concept. Nobody goes back home and says, what's my piety score? Whereas people do say, what's my money score, so to speak, so what's my balance in my account, right? And it was much more towards that, meaning that prestige and piety in Crusader Kings was much more like the monarch mana that we know from Europa Universalis 4, for example. Now all of this is a small entry point, let's not worry about this. What happens if I click more? Oh, look at that. Yeah, okay, that's quite interesting. It explains you all the basic stuff. Now let's move on. And let's take a look at this beautiful, beautiful game. I haven't even seen this banner. You currently gain 60% of the income from your domain. Now, okay, let's just start out by taking a look at what our domain even looks like. Now, how do you do this? When you look at this, what you can see right here, all of this land, yeah, that's what I thought. So it's not even the direct vassals, it's just what you hold directly. All of this land that is in the dark green is essentially held by us. The King of England, I'm William de Normandy. I'm 39 years old, I'm a really good fella. You can see I also have fairly similar traits to, you know, what you might expect in CK2. You have the brilliant strategist, the bastard, valorous, suspicious, wise. Suspicious, I would assume, is something like paranoid. Very wary and of what is said by others, yeah. Wise, skeptical, proud, cruel, just, and energetic. Now, the thing about this is, and you will see this here in these tooltips, the effect mostly goes into your stats, which of course it also does in the normal one. And I honestly, I can't even 100% tell you what exactly the stats do. I think they like do domain stuff, so let me check this here. The gold, right? Ruler's Intrigue allows 2. Yeah, okay, so the way I see it, essentially they mostly have an impact on the numbers of what you gain in terms of prestige and piety. From traits 0.1, from traits minus 0.6. Yeah, okay, so essentially that's mostly what they impact you, and then of course loyalty, how many min you can muster, etc, etc. But all of these stats didn't really play the same role that they do today in Crusader Kings 2 and will in Crusader Kings 3, where the traits essentially exist to have other characters form an opinion towards you based on your traits. That's not something that Crusader Kings did. That is just, that is a huge difference. I mean, that alone, it's such a small thing, right? But it's a gigantic difference if you think about it, because it essentially puts the traits into a much more gamey and arcadey situation than anything that you can expect in CK2, CK3. But again, this is the first of the first, you know? It's really difficult to create something entirely new that is based on nothing but itself, and for that, I would argue it's very impressive. Now, what you can see here is that anybody that is in this light green is our direct vassal. So this fella here, for example, is my direct vassal, this fella as well. And then we have myself, of course, as the King of England, and we happen to have some non-direct vassals. Do we actually? No, you don't have any vassals underneath you. But these are dukes. This is the shape of a duke. I'm a king, and these are all counts. If I were to give out... I don't even know if I have any, but let me just check something here. I would like to give this count... No, I can only give him counties. I cannot give him any duchies. But essentially the way it works, and I think I can show this off in France. Yeah, look at that. So he has direct vassals, and then he has non-direct vassals. So this, for example, this fella, he has these as his direct vassals, meaning, you know, you can only tell that they are direct vassals of the Duke here in Anjou if you click on him. Otherwise, you will not be able to tell. You know, map mode and UI is something that is really difficult, and I think that becomes apparent when you look at this. And look at this beautiful terrain. I mean, this is just gorgeous. Wow. It's just so impressive if you look at it. Just look at Bavaria. What a beauty. What a... This is Dayton. Man, this game, it's so beautiful. It's so nice to look at these old-ass games and remember what it felt like to look at them back in the day as the newest stuff. I couldn't, you know, like, be in school. I mean, school was fine, don't get me wrong here, but like, it was always so amazing to come home and fire up these games and be like, wow, what a universe contained in Crusader Kings, and today we're like, what the hell is this? Now, beyond the relational map mode, we also have the economy map mode. Don't worry about that one too much, it really doesn't matter right now. Then the realm map mode, of course, that is where you spend most of your time in CK2. In CK, it's pretty helpful. I mean, you can, you know, I think recognize many of the borders that you see. Grey Hungary, that's interesting. Green Poland, man. Blue Croatia. Then the East Roman Empire, of course. I think that's not the Ayyubids. Who are you? The Mamluks? No, not the Mamluks. What am I talking about? The Fatimids, I want to say? Al-Mustanzir Fatimid. Yeah, look at that. The Fatimids live down here. He's Shiite. He's a tough soldier. He has a stutter and he's a coward. Now, you could not play Muslims, of course, or any non-Orthodox or Catholic religion in Crusader Kings, so don't worry about too much about his mechanics. I mean, you can see it right here if I get rid of this log that nobody ever used. Mecca and Medina just are like right here, because it's essentially like, yeah, they're kind of important because, of course, Muslims play a role in Crusader Kings, but, you know, we don't really go any down there. I remember Knights of Honor did that as well. Knights of Honor, also a very old game back in the day, essentially put Mecca and Medina, like, right here. And, like, the map ended right here. It was wild at the time, because it was good to include it, of course, but it was barely on the map in the first place, man. Look at how this is such a thick Holy Land. That's so incredible. Either way, what I want to show off, not just that the traits essentially function very differently. When you look at this interface, it will look very familiar, I reckon. Usually now in Crusader Kings 2, you see it like roughly down here, and not as large, and not as weird in terms of information that you actually get out of it. You have all the direct vassals here. You have the spouse, the parents, the siblings. You have court members. We have a lot of them here. Did I just see Raja? No, Ranulf. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. I was like, that can't be right. We got friends and rivals. Friends and rivals were not a thing in the original Crusader Kings. That comes with the expansion Deus Vult. So as you can see, despite it being character-based, the character traits, the character interactions are not actually really character-based. They're character-based only as far as you accept that something that barely has a character is a character. Now, the thing about this is, and I really want to stress this was huge back in the day. Oh my god, looking at this, I mean, this is so impressive. You had no other game that functioned like this, and then you had it all done here in Crusader Kings Complete. But it works significantly differently, because if I click on this fella here, you can see that the important stat for us is that he is devotedly loyal. If he's devotedly loyal, we're looking at a situation where we can recruit more people from him. If we can recruit more people from him, then we are better in, you know, terms of war, etc., etc. But the actual friendship that we have with him wasn't a core concept of this game. So if I click on this fella here, for example, you know, he does, obviously, you can see it right here, he does have an opinion of us, but whatever that means, you know, at the end of the day, again, what really matters is this extremely loyal sort of thing. Man, what a game. I'm looking at this and it's just like, there's so much to talk about. Let's finish the map modes and then let's move on to something interesting here, I think. Religion map mode, I mean, you know, self-explanatory, I guess. You can't play any of these over here, by the way, because of course, this fella right here is a Latigallish pagan. Back in the day, everybody was just pagan. If you weren't Muslim, if you weren't Christian, you were simply a pagan. Actually, what are you? You might be. Yeah, look at that. The Jewish Khazars already made it into the game, although, of course, there were no nomads. There was no distinction really in governments. I mean, the entire government debate that we have in CK2 and in CK3 was just not a thing. All of that completely new in CK2, man. Such a gigantic step. But with that being said, essentially, since only Christians were playable anyway, nobody worried really that much about pagans, about Muslims. You know, they weren't really simulated in any meaningful way. Now let's go into the relationship map mode. Let's zoom in a bit. And let's take a look. You can see all of the vassals here, of course. We got some children as well. This guy already holds a title. Robert is the Duke of Normandy. Good for him. You know, if it works, it works. And then we come to the interesting part, because this is something. And this is, for me personally, what you're about to see is the flash of the blast from the past. If you haven't played games that were browser games back in the day, then you won't know how much this aesthetic means to me. When I click right here, I see the actual overview of this county, and if I click in the picture, boom. If you've ever played any browser games that let you, like, you know, early 2000 browser games, like Renaissance, something, I can't remember the name there. You had something that was called Knights of Honor, or just Knights Honor, I can't remember. All of those things that happened had this feature where you saw the visualization in 2D of whatever you build up. You can even see his little warrior right here. But anyway, we had all of this stuff going on, and this interface is quite interesting because you will be able to tell that this is also very much arcadey in the sense that essentially you have loyalty here, and that loyalty of course determines, you know, how they actually interact with you. If they have more loyalty, that means that you get more troops, more taxation as well, I think. Let me just actually push it down in loyalty a bit. Loyalty 96%, see, now I'm thinking. Taxation 10%, yeah, there you go. I guess Why did the taxation exactly go down there? So essentially you give power to the groups here, and then you will get more things from them. I see that taxation has gone very low here. I honestly, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm not entirely certain how this influences it, but this entire screen, do not confuse it with any sort of pop simulation, with any sort of simulation to begin with. What you determine here is where you get your money from and what sort of troops you get. You can see that right here. They belong to the next highest societal standard, were often called those who prayed. The men of God were the shepherds of the Lamb who helped the lesser to serve God due to their own abilities. The clergy rarely paid taxes and were often the keystone in any serious administration. So what we do with them right here determines how we interact with things. Most of the time though, if I for example give the nobility more power, you can see that we get different units. We get and why doesn't it say that here? There you go. Oh, there you go. Your regiment will hold more knights and heavy troops. So that is if we support the nobility. If we support the church, what do we get here? We get more light cavalry and heavy infantry. So this entire screen is not any sort of population simulation. This is an arcadey what troops do you want. Essentially men-at-arms without being men-at-arms, right? It's an interesting concept, but like, also here, roleplay wasn't yet the main focus of Crusader Kings. It's something that I'm really impressed by, just how it changed and how much it actually went towards the roleplay focus, because, you know, it certainly didn't start with it. Now let me just check something. You should be an Anglo-Saxon. Yeah, he's a Saxon. See, we are Normans, but he's an Anglo-Saxon. You can see that right here. That already existed. I assume that this will have an impact on how you feel about me. He is quite loyal still and has a negative opinion of me, so I'm not that happy about that, of course. Now let's talk about the character interactions in a second. For the moment, let me just create something here. Create Bishopric, because that is something we can do. It's very, very similar to Crusader Kings II in a sense. Then it shows people in my court. And I'm going to give this guy, what about you take Dorset? There you go. Yeah, just get out of here with Dorset. And there you go, we got a new fella on the map. He doesn't actually get his own thing, it seems. Oh, maybe we just gotta wait a bit. I don't actually know how that works, graphically speaking. But here comes the next thing that I really, really love about this game and that identifies it as an early 2000s game. And at this point, I mean, we're just talking about, my god, can you remember, you know, early tech? Because now we're, of course, in late tech. Here we are already towards proper 3D portraits and everything, but look at this. This is a menu, believe it or not. If you hover over here, you will get to see the action screen. Boom, there you go, okay? If you hover over here, you will get to see the court screen, which is essentially your council, right? So I'm going to put you as my bishop in here, and then we're happy. The Treasury Screen, oh, the sliders. So many people miss the sliders. Man, I'm so happy we don't have any sliders. You can, you know, of course, change that here. People become more or less loyal. You will earn more or less money, that sort of stuff. And then you have the domain income. All of this will change the loyalty of the peasants, the loyalty of the burghers, the loyalty of course, you know, anybody really there. So all of those things can be adjusted here as well. But sliders as a game design mechanic, I mean, they don't really introduce anything. At any point, at any given point that you play this game, your slider will have a 100% optimal position, period. That's just how it goes. It's a very linear system. And what we get in Crusader Kings II but even better in Crusader Kings III, is the fact that the sliders, so the feudal contract, don't necessarily know a permanently optimal position. Now in this case, you know, sliders did their job. I mean, it is what it is. It's very Europe Universalis at the end of the day. It impacts the loyalty of both the people that are actually your vassals, but also of course, the local lords. So, you know, I guess it has a really neat existence, but it's honestly, I don't miss it. Oh, and here's the thing, look at this. This is the advances screen. Now this doesn't look very impressive, but essentially you have these advances, and you can see, if you zoom out, this is essentially a tech screen, right? What you can see right here is who already has what tech here, right? So this, for example, is something that is known in these locations, if I read this correctly, and I believe that I do. Wait, can I actually check that? I don't think I can, right? No, I cannot look at his code. Oh, no, I cannot look at his code. That's fair. But I can look at my own code, and you can see all of these advances. And you can see, in my opinion, a direct relationship between this, then the developers pivoting to the tech system that we got in Crusader Kings II, which is essentially this, just a bit further. You can see the different levels here as well, very comparable to CK2. And then what we get in CK3, because you can see that right here. If I enact this right now, if I enact farming equipment, my country will focus on developing farming equipment. So you can see these different things, the wood plows, the, iron plows, the pitchforks, etc, etc. And every time that a month passes, there's a random chance that I can unlock one of these. So for example, now we're we're focusing on farming equipment. Isn't that reminiscent, although worse, of course, I mean, admittedly, admittedly, isn't that comparable to cultural innovations and a cultural head? It's not the same, don't get me wrong, it's absolutely not the same, but you can see the inspiration, in my opinion. And I'll be honest with you, of course, I don't want to decimate the achievements of the current developers of CK3, because all of the amazing systems that we have seen so far were, of course, their work. But I will tell you, Henrik Fareus, the now game director of CK3, game director of CK2, and, one of the masterminds, I guess. He developed it with Johan Andersson and, of course, many others. But he's still there. So, like, I wouldn't be very surprised if at any point Henrik said, yeah, I saw the old tech system, I saw the CK2 system, and I made the best out of it in cultural innovations. I love that you can see, essentially, hey, yeah, I want to focus on this, and then your realm will focus on it. And then your realm will develop it, and it will spread from there on. Really, really neat, because you can just see how it developed into CK2 and then CK3. And then last but not least, we have access to law screens. I mean, just look at this stuff. If you change this, by the way, people will be very mad at you. So this is definitely a once in a lifetime sort of thing. Although they don't restrict it the same way they do in CK2. I can just do this technically, and now people are of course disloyal. They're quite mad at me. But I could also just once. Oh no, actually, it is time gated. Right, I forgot about that. It's time gated for 20 years, but it isn't restricted to just a single person. Now, what I will point out is they actually have interesting, semi-salic Gavelkind. All titles are divided equally between all male heirs in order of age, children and then grandchildren and so on. All titles are divided equally between all male heirs in order of age, children and then grandchildren and so on, but ignoring males that trace their lineage through their mothers. For example, the sons of your daughters. Interesting, isn't it? So you have essentially a unified role of succession laws between the gender laws for the succession and the actual succession type. All of that, of course, got splintered in CK2. We had more variety, and then in CK3, we even get more variety. I mean, there's a huge difference here, between all of this stuff that we can see right here, and essentially anything implemented for non-Christians in CK2, because of course none of these systems, open succession isn't in, we don't have nomadic succession, we don't have elective Gavelkind, that sort of stuff didn't make it in, but they already, had this sort of stuff going on. This is one of the biggest things, in my opinion, that really geared this game towards a character-based game, because again, in my opinion, the characters weren't really interacting that much. With that being said, what else we got here? Man, this is wild to look at. Feudal contract, royal. Oh yeah, you can actually see who inherits in what style. There you go. You see that? Nice. Yeah. This actually shows that off. Regal supremacy. Religion's authority will fluctuate over time with events, and the ruler will get usury events. Each clergy power in your provinces gives you additional troops. Church donations slider limited. Right, okay, this is very not roleplay description. Good to know. This is a balance, and then this is essentially church supremacy. Interesting, okay. And then, of course, we have popular law, traditional custom, feudal contract, and royal prerogative. So this is semi-government type, but not really, because it just changes the way that you get money and the way that you can move the sliders along. Anyway, what is very, very interesting, beyond all of the stuff that we just talked about, is that effectively, let me just see here. Yeah, I can create titles, I realized this. Let me just quickly go into this screen where I can interact with that. Nope, that's not it. It's this one. There you go. Almost forgot about it. We can create titles here, and you can see, very, very similar to what you are already used to. Let me check something out. I'm not fully sure how this works. Let's create the Duke of Somerset, and then I want to grant you, my friend, the title Duke of Somerset. Yeah, okay. Do the vassals just go with him? Yeah, they do. Dorset just went with him, right? Aren't you supposed to be a bishopric? Yeah, they are a bishopric, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure. Scotland wants an alliance, huh? Sure, that's an early one. They immediately sent the offer for an alliance, sure. If you feel like it, my friend. There it is. Yeah, it just took some time to actually pop up. But he is a bishopric, he lives there, he's now on his own. And he is a direct vassal now, immediately, of the Duchy of Somerset that we just handed out. Now, this is very, very similar, of course, to what we see in CK2, but again, it's more balancing of numbers than it is balancing of characters. Man, the huge expansion there, the huge change of how all of that works is just incredible. We could revoke the title, we could send fosterlings. Fosterlings, actually, a mechanic that was much more used, in my opinion, here. Education itself was way less used than ever in CK2, even before Way of Life. But you know, at the end of the day, I mean, this is a 2004 game, what can you say? Matilda, nice, we're respecting a child, very cool. Let me interact with this man one more time, please. Oh, right, I'm currently expecting an answer. Let's just speed up the game then. Give me an answer, there we go. He accepted the fosterling proposal of Constance, and here we have an event. We have an event. There are no decisions in this, by the way. Early Paradox games had no decisions ever. You've made friends with another child in the wait, what? I'm 39. What are you? Constance to Normandy. I guess you're my daughter, right? Yeah, you're my daughter, so that's okay. Hopefully just for life. There you go. Friends come and go. I'm self-reliant. And then here you can see the tooltip. Everything explained. Gained the... I could, or she could gain the trade stressed. There could be no effect. She could get martial skills, stewardship, or intrigue skills. So essentially, she can become a better person, or we become friends. Let's just become friends, I guess. Are we friends? Oh my god, now I get it. Okay, no, actually, this was an event written out of the perspective of the child, and they were becoming friends with a different child. Oh, that's great. Okay, I love that. I thought it was me becoming friends with her. Don't worry about it, okay? And what else I want to show off here is actually... This is something that was in early Crusader Kings 2 as well, where you could just do a direct assassination attempt. There are no plots. All of that doesn't exist. It's not a thing. Doesn't exist. I could, let's just say, I don't know, the Duke of Somerset shall be assassinated. Yes. Failed and were discovered. Well, that sucks. How do you feel about me, my friend? Still plus 42. That doesn't make sense. Let me just unpause a bit. I wanna see how that changes. -7. That's what I'm talking about. Still extremely loyal, but that's okay. Either way, that is essentially everything internal. Again, no plots. Title fabrication works way different. Check this out. You just grab title. If you have the prestige, you spend the prestige, and then you have a claim on the title. And that's why I'm saying this was way more mana than it is today. Man, I love all of this. This is so amazing to look at. It's so old. One of the interesting mechanics, actually, that isn't in CK2 and that isn't in CK3, and I believe the justification, the idea behind it is that effectively they are saying, hey, you know what, it could be in CK2 and CK3, but it would screw over the entire game. Like, the AI couldn't handle it, the systems couldn't handle it, and that's fair, obviously. Let me just find some... Do I have a claim on anything? I do not have a claim. Let me load in as somebody else. Because wars work a bit differently. And what I mean by that is that wars work... Let's just play Jerusalem here. Wars work more multi-dimensional, I guess. Again, it doesn't really work. I think there's a lot of tedium here, but wars work in a way where effectively you don't always declare war against the top leash. I'm the king of Jerusalem. We have Salah ad-Din, of course, all around us. You know, the Ayyubids here are ruling in this region. Salah ad-Din, he's 49 years old. He's a great commander. You can see all of this belongs to him. That's quite impressive, you have to admit. You know, all of this stuff is part of his realm. And in the meantime, I just sit on this stuff here. But effectively, let me just see. I think I have a claim, right? No? Doesn't one of my people have a claim? Oh, this guy. Yeah, okay. I can take this guy if I declare a war. Oh, no, he's a religious enemy. I don't actually need a claim. You can see here, we can raise an army of 17,000 men, while they can get at least 44,000 men to defend them. And that is because he is part of a realm. But I don't actually have to necessarily declare the war against Salah ad-Din. No, I could, but I don't necessarily have to. I'm going to declare the war against this guy, and then Salah ad-Din gets a message that says, hey, I'm your vassal, and I'm being attacked. Can you aid me? And he will 100% say yes, just for the record. But, you know, he gets a choice. He technically gets a choice. He immediately declared war against me. Yeah, you can see that he said yes. I mean, I think the AI just says auto yes. And now look at these cute little guys. What we're going to do is, we're going to go ahead. And I'm going to do a grand mobilization, essentially making so that my vassals will also raise their armies and not just myself. You can see that right here. This is my personal domain that has currently been raised. Let me just select all of these guys. Man, navigating this is tough. Also, this looks so hard to iron too. It's crazy. This is like such a... I mean, EU, I guess, as well. But these arrows and everything, this is just... Man, this is wild. But yeah, again, you can see the different troop types. You know, all of this stuff already existed. It's essentially the troop types that roughly correspond to what we also know from CK2, of course. But more interestingly, not just can you declare war against a vassal, and theoretically a very busy realm could say no to the request of the vassal for aid. If I, and you will see that here in a second if they do respond, yeah, there they go. Give them a moment here. There we go. Balian, Count of Bearship, has agreed to mobilize their host at the request of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. So essentially, we don't raise their troops directly. They say yes. and then they raise their troops. And I think then they just attach themselves to it. Let me just... You, right, Balin? Balin Dibelin, yeah. I think he raised his troops, and now he's like gonna run around and do his own thing, right? What are you gonna do here? Just gonna stand there? Gonna have a good time? Right, all of these people are now mobilizing their troops. We are at war, of course, and a nation at war. Let's just destroy this army really early. Let's head in there. You're gonna see the huge difference here, man. This game really is something else, you know? Mobilize their troops, that's a good thing. Wait, why are we not fighting? And Noble distinguished himself in battle. Why can I not see the battle here? Couldn't I see? There we go. Okay, I need to select just one army. And Noble distinguished himself in battle. Good for you. A noble by the name of Emmanuel arrives at the court of Chancellor Amaury. Good for you indeed. And now this is the battle. You have morale on both sides. You have the number of defenders. You have the people that are actually fighting. So the actual, you know, commanders. These don't have any commanders. These have commanders. I don't know exactly how they impact the fight here. But I know that, you know, essentially these are kind of duking it out in different phases. So you can see both, in my opinion, CK2 and CK3 in this, although, of course, very early 2000s. Very rudimentary. But look at that. We're fighting this battle. We are shredding them. Never, never fight against us again. Oh, somebody else walked into us and just perished without me even getting involved. Let's just continue walking here. You know, you can see they're getting their armies together. Man, these armies look so amazingly funny. Now, the fun thing about this is... oh, look at that. Office peace. Oh, hell yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, dude, I'm okay. I'm at peace with these guys now. Am I still at war with the... Yeah, now I'm just at war with Salahadin, so with the actual leader here. And what I'm thinking is, I just want to show off. If you sue for peace here, essentially, you have... Oh, right. We don't actually have any claims. In claimant wars, you would have different... Let me actually... You know what? Can I just siege something down here? How does sieging even work in this game? Like, not even kidding. How does it work? The heathens are splintered. A white peace is possible. Gains the trade zealous? Oh, yes, please. Nah, I'm good. What an event. What an event. I only have one trade. Indulgent. I'm not zealous. Sad. Unlucky. Maybe later. But look at that. We're still shredding them, so like, I'm not complaining. Take whatever I can, but I feel like there's a lot of them coming here. But this battle is fine. A commander displayed ineptitude. How dare you? This game, man, it's such a different time. Am I sieging this? How does that work? Are you being sieged? Why are you not? Can I only siege his personal holdings? Because I'm not at war with his vassals, technically speaking. Oh god. Oh no, okay. Wow, it just always shows red for the defender. It does not actually do that for enemies. It just shows that's defending. I'm defending, but I'm red. You seen that? Alright, let's shred these people. I just want to go into his crown lands to see. Yeah, we're sieging it. Okay. How does this work? Formal education. Just educate him at court, dude. Don't worry about it. Show me how exactly does this work. Is it just a bar that goes down? Yeah, that's very CK. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. I love this game, man. I love this looking back, you know, it's just so much fun. Province liberated. We liberated the province of Pelusia from the unlawful occupants of Kingdom of Egypt. Wait a minute. Does that just become a part of me? No, it doesn't, right? No, it's just occupied. Okay, yeah. But since this is a holy war, if we peace out, we keep it. Do not press the claim. Install Gi King as the Count of Eilat. So that's what we... Wait, we didn't just conquer that. Where's Eilat? Isn't the Eilat supposed to be somewhere over here? Oh god. F? Okay, I cannot search for it. I can't actually spot it, but I assume one of our allies sieged that down? Wait, do I just have a claim on it? I don't think I do. Oh, apparently I do. Wait, when did I gain that claim? You know what? Don't need to ask. Just take it. And look at that. Here you see the peace value that you need to push that through. Here you see our current war score. Apparently he really doesn't want any of those pushed, huh? But, and this is what I love, like what I would really like. Okay, I can't change it apparently, but you can push for tributes, meaning you can determine how much money do you get at the end of a war. And I would really love it to see a more, and we talked about this, of course, numerous times, to see a more kind of flexible system in terms of war results, you know? What are the negotiations? Maybe some hostages, maybe a marriage, etc, etc, etc. And this is kind of rudimentary, very rudimentary, but this is the same idea, right? I'm going to send you an offer to make me the Count of Eilat. What are you going to say, buddy? What are you going to do about it? Oh, wait a minute. Let me just merge these here. Also, wait a minute. How many are you? You know what? Let's just shred the army and then we're going to call it a day here. He's pulling all of them together. Let's just destroy him. Hell yeah. Ah, look at that, right. There were no boats in Crusader Kings 1. And I hope that this is essentially also how it works, right? You can see a fee of 106. That is what it costs to ship them out. Let me just check something here. Ah, okay, no. This is not how I want it to work in CK3. You can see it's always... Oh, it's not always. Ah, it probably... I wonder how they calculate that cost. So I assume there's a high, steep cost for like just entering the sea as well. And then I assume they probably calculate it by sea tile, right? Like wherever I click and see 79 in fees. This is also 79. It's the same sea tile. One sea tile further, 106. One sea tile, yeah, okay, it's calculated by sea tiles, I think. So like this would be 132, and then this is reachable one sea tile further, 159. This is essentially how it works in CK3. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly how it goes. You pay the boats, and then you go, and it costs more the further you go. I do not want you to know. Just walk, dude. Just take a moment, okay? No, don't. Jesus, stop trying to make me pay money. Oh god, we're already negative. And they have attacked... Wait, what? Oh... Right, I forgot about that. It also works the other way around, and he rejected our peace offer, but it also works the other way around, where essentially, and I should have probably had you in that army, but this guy declares a war, and then I can say, do I join that war? In this case, I said yes. We're now at war with Ahmed al-Nazir, king of Abbasid. Is that you? These are the assassins. No, that's not you. But essentially, it works quite differently, where the liege lord relationship is much more involved in external wars. I like that concept. I know why it is not in Crusader Kings 2. It has been much discussed in the early stages of Crusader Kings 2, but I really think it's a neat little concept that shouldn't at least be forgotten about. But yeah, this is Crusader Kings, and that's it. No number attached. Let's just pillage this land right here. You've been pillaged. I made some money. Amazing. I hope you enjoyed this little blast from the past, taking a look at this ancient game to see what is different, what is the same. I, of course, as always, want to thank the members of the channel that are making videos such as this one possible, namely the Barons, Achilles, Know-How, Charlie, Eterna, Falling Phoenix, Rex Romanorum, Jacob, the Musielago, Dan, Florian, MFV, Mitchell, Aaron, Stefan, Snywolf, then of course also the Counts, Lachlan, Kazen, Wombit, Thomas, and Shifty, and last but not least, the absolutely beautiful Dukes, Eric, Kiriana, Goodfield, Nathan, Jack, Kenneth, and Lexo. Crusader Kings started out as a very arcadey board game and became an absolute beauty that is now more RPG than strategy game. I hope that you enjoyed this little blast from the past, and I'll see you later. Alligator.